Hello guys, Fru here. Welcome to the presentation for today. In today's presentation, we're going to be reviewing a really interesting player in the ecosystem, and it's called Airbyte. So we're going to do a demo for Airbyte, and it's a replication tool. As part of our demo, we're going to see how to get data using Airbyte to replicate that into Snowflake. Now, if you're new to Snowflake, Snowflake is a highly performant modern data warehouse solution for massive amounts of data for compute, data warehouse in the cloud, separating storage from compute, very cost effective and economical for huge workloads. A lot of people are using Snowflake. So we're going to see how to get data from different data sources, from relational databases, from SaaS applications into Snowflake for analysis. And Airbyte is a player in the niche that is coming up. So we're going to talk about it, do a setup for Airbyte, connect to Snowflake, create some replications. And along the way, we're going to have some discussions about what I think about where this tool might fit. And I'll give you some of my opinions. I spent quite a bit of time in the ETL, ELT, data integration, replication, CDC type of space. And it's a space that is very important. If you think about, say, tools like Snowflake being the swimming pool, tools like Airbyte would be kind of the plumbing that brings water to that swimming pool. And if you have a swimming pool without water, it's not very effective. If you have an amazing data warehouse without data, it's not very effective. So having this plumbing, this ETL, this integration tool, which is a very rich ecosystem, is very relevant for analysts or for teams that are looking to do data analysis. So Airbyte, we're going to be looking at that today. There is a diagram here. And I just did a quick check to bring up this diagram. Bear with me. It's very busy. It's an eyesore. But I want to call your attention, and it's a little bit, I would say, dated at this point, given when I'm making this video. But just a couple of things. I think we can still get a key takeaways from here. Lots and lots of spaces in here when you think about working with data. This area here is what I want to call attention to. If you can see my mouse, and this is that area for data integration. This is a very busy area. I don't think this chat does it justice in showing it as such. There is an Informatica, the MuleSoft, SnapLogic, Talent, and you name it. And you have new players like Fivetran, Matillion, and so many tools. Glue all exist within the space to integrate data, to move data from one location to another location. And if you come down a little bit here, you might still see tools like Talent, and even around this area with Hadoop. There is Scoop, which is kind of getting old school now. There is Kafka, some form of Apache Beam, Pulsar. It doesn't all show up here, but even the specific players tend to have approaches to connect to different data sources and bring data. All right, and here you see the different data sources. Not to talk about going up to the top right side here, the different verticals like fintech and security might have specialized tools for moving data. And it's really a challenging space when you step back and think about it, because everyone who wants to analyze data, whether you're talking about real-time, batch, streaming, or whatever form, whatever latency you want that data, you need to move the data from the source systems that are generating this data, from your IoT systems, from your ERP systems, from your CRM systems, into an environment that can be analyzed. And this is really where I see something like Airbyte coming into play here. And I think they play on the name of Air. There is Airflow, there is Airtable, and I think there's a couple of other Air things, and Airbyte might be playing on that name. I'm not quite sure. But I think they're doing it pretty well. Here you have ELT, extracting data from the different sources. It seems like their niche is more on SaaS applications and a few RDBMSs with Postgres in there, SQL Server and MySQL, Git as well. And then you have your SaaS applications, Salesforce, Google Analytics, all the way to Google Sheets, and bringing that data into analytical platforms like Snowflake. And I believe along the way, they do some transformations. So we're going to dive in, take a look at it. This tool is open source, as I checked. I believe it's all open source, but they seem to have been well capitalized with the funding. I'm not sure when this funding was, but if everything goes according to plan for them, I would imagine that with this capitalization, they might really invest in the product. And I could see players in this space being thinking about Stitch, which was acquired by Talent, Stitch Replicate. You can see something like Matillion, Fivetran, I would imagine. And maybe a couple of other ones might be in this space. But given that Airbyte is kind of a new player, I'm sure they might have some tricks up their sleeves. So we're going to see. That said, let's dive right into our presentation with that background. Airbyte, you can check out your website. It does say it's open source data integration for modern teams. All right. So some pretty good marketing in there. There is a video which we're going to see as we go through. The documentation is really good. If you want to follow along with this demonstration, you can pretty much follow along. You can install it on locally, AWS or GCP. I'm surprised there's no Azure in there, but it does seem like the documentation is very good. If anyone wants to follow it up, there is some community there on Slack and GitHub and Twitter for folks to follow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to deploy it locally. And the scripts, if you're going to follow along and deploy this locally, I did it about a second or so ago. It's 3 lines of code you got to run, right? Just do the git clone, open up a terminal on Mac for me. On Windows, I'm sure you can do something similar. I'm not sure, but at least for Mac, you just do git clone, clone it from there, cd into the directory, do a Docker compose. It's going to fire it all up. And once you have it up, it's going to run, which I did. And you can see that running in background here. Literally took me 2 seconds. Well, it does take about 3 or 4 minutes to download all those binaries and jars. And once you have it up and running, you can access it from your local host port 8000 in this case, because I'm running this locally. So once you do that, we can see the port 8000. We've logged into Airbyte, and from there everything is all good and pretty sweet. So going back to the presentation of what we're going to do here, I do have Airbyte set up. Again, very easy. Just follow the instructions and it should bring you to this point. Let me bring this over. Bear with me. It should bring you over to this point. Let me move things over here. And you should have Airbyte. So we're going to go through and do a walkthrough of the UI. The goal for this demo is, I don't want to focus on the UI now, just given the state of the product. I think that it's still growing and I could see them changing the UI and the layout, but just follow the concepts. I think the concepts are what would be very interesting as we look at a product like this for moving data into platforms. So coming in here, again, not to really focus on the UI, but there are a couple of constructs in here. There is an idea of a connections. So connections is basically, think about it as a pipeline that connects one source to another source and data is flowing in through. So I have one connection here, which we're going to talk about. There is a whole idea of sources. And a source is basically where you're getting data from. And a destination is where you're sending data. It doesn't seem like they have a restriction on the number of destinations. I remember a while back working with something like Stitch. You can only have one destination and many different sources. I haven't tested it here, but given that you can still see a destination here, I'm guessing you can create more destinations. So before going into destinations, let's do a couple of things. Of course, there is settings in here where you can see your sources. I've set up one source for MySQL, and my destination is going to be Snowflake. And there's quite a bit of sources here, which I believe they continue to add as time goes. Right. Well, these are destinations, but the sources, you can see a lot of sources here from where you can get data and replicate that or stream that or move that, whatever term you want to use. I think it really depends on who is having the definition. You can get data from these sources into your environment. In our case here, Snowflake is what we're going to be looking at. So With that said, let's look at creating a source. My source is MySQL, which I have running, just a free version of MySQL. I created one table, loaded some data using a free version of MySQL just for the sake of this demonstration. Nothing too fancy. It has 2 records or 3 records. I just did a quick insert into it. So that's where we're going to be getting our data from. Now, if you have MySQL on-prem, you might want to work with what you have or some other relational database, but MySQL is what we're looking at here. So the first thing you're going to have to do if you want to get data from the source, in our case, MySQL is that source. So I'm going to do MySQL, and you basically follow the prompt. The very first time, it might be a little bit different from the UI versus when you've come in here. So just if it looks different, again, this seems like a product that is actively being developed. It's open source. I wouldn't be surprised if things are changing and moving around. So again, focus on the concepts, not the UI. Here you can call it, say, MySQL demo, take it through, and you can select the sources that you want. You can either browse it. And I like the whole idea of them putting search in there. I'm a huge search fan. So you can say, hey, we're going to get data from MySQL. And once you have that, just put in the host name, your database, your authentication, username and password, which is what they support for now, and then any parameters that you want. And once you have that, boom, hit setup source, and you should have your source. So it's really that easy to set it up. Now, the next piece is the destination. Once you have a source set up, what you're going to do is go to destination, and you're just going to hit new destination. Call this a Snowflake, take it through. D for destination, kind of a weird looking name there, but it actually means something. SF for Snowflake, take it through. D for destination. So here we're going to search for a destination, and in this case, we can select Snowflake. And just like that, it brings up the credentials, which you can put up. So you're going to grab your account name for Snowflake, put that in, the role, warehouse, a database, schema, a user, of course, and then password for what you want. Now, something to pay attention to here is this whole loading method. All right. Do you want standard inserts, or do you want AWS staging or GCS staging? Again, remember, they run just on GCS or Google and AWS. It doesn't seem like they run on Azure. I'm not really sure why. I might have to dig into that. So here, standard inserts is fine, but I could imagine that standard inserts will be very, very, very slow. And I'm guessing if you do an AWS S3 staging, and you have lots of records, it wouldn't be doing record by record inserts. It's probably going to do a bulk copy, which is probably what you want. Again, I haven't tested it, but that's my intuition. That's what my intuition tells me. So set up your destination, or once you set it all up, that should be fine. We've got our sources, we've got our destination. And then what we're going to do now is the connection. Okay. A connection is basically just linking a source to a destination, which I did set up one already. So new connection, you can give it a name, say load, sales warehouse or sales data, for as an example. You're going to select your source connector, which we already did. So in this case, it's MySQL, and put in the credentials. What surprised me here is it doesn't allow me to pick an existing source I've set up. Again, that's why I say the UI might be a little bit not where it should be, but you can see the concept that at some point, if I've already set up my source connector for MySQL, I should be able to just reuse that here. All right. So you do that, you fill in the details, for your destination, and now you've got a connection set up. So basically a connection pairs up a source to a destination. Now, here is a connection that I think that's the name here that I've set up already. And you can take the settings to see the details of it. So my source is going from MySQL, and my destination is going to Snowflake. And how often do I want this to run? This is your frequency. So it's kind of cron based. You can say every 5 minutes, 15 minutes, every hour, or manual trigger. For the sake of this demo, I just did manual trigger. But if you want your data coming in from your source to your destination every 5 minutes, you can certainly do that. It seems like something you can do. All right. I'm sure maybe they might put a custom frequency in here. You never know. All right. Next piece. how do you want the data? I want to just basically mirror my source into my destination. And the next couple of things are just basic setup. But what you're gonna do here, my SQL, my source doesn't have a lot of tables. It's just one table basically, right? The products table. But assume I had a lot of let's just create one here. Assume that I had a lot of say, let's call this sales, and then make this as sales ID. Let me just create one table in there just to hopefully show an idea of that this is all getting the data live. So now I have two tables in here in my source. If I go back in here, you can refresh the list of schemas. It takes a second. It's going to pull and introspect your source, and it's going to give you a list of tables that you want to replicate. So if you have the list of tables you want to replicate, you should be able to follow that pretty straightforward. This takes about a second or so to pull that in. I'm going to pause video and then come back once we're done. All right, so it did pull, and now you can see my sales table, which we just created, shows up in here, and it's available for me to replicate over, or to ETL, or to integrate. Again, those terms kind of change depending on who you're talking to. And now you can select all the objects, or you can select just one, and that gets replicated. And I believe you can go down to, well, I guess not. I should imagine, well, it doesn't allow you to select specific attributes that you want. I could see this being a feature coming up here, because people might not want to replicate every single column over. If you have column tables with hundreds of columns, you might want to replicate just a subset of it. And then it tells you, again, not to complain about the UI, but you can see that the UI has some opportunities there. Again, functionality is what I care about. UI can always be fixed easily. So in here, you might not see it very well, but it says full refresh, override, full refresh append, incremental append, and incremental dedupe, right, for history. I don't know how it deals with deletes on the source, but you can get into those details later on, especially when dealing with replicating data. So I wonder if you do append, dedupe, is it going to ask for a key? Yep, I expected that, because of course it's going to need a key to dedupe. Of course, I really expected that. So let's do append, so it doesn't ask for a key. All right, so that's what we have. You can do basic normalization. I'm not quite sure what this is, but I'm just going to get my raw data coming in. All right, and so that's the configuration that you have. There seems to be some transformations here with DBT, which is something that I'm going to spend a little bit more time to really understand. I know I've done some video, or at least I plan to do some videos around DBT on Snowflake. So once I get to that, I might maybe come back here and see how we integrate all of that into a solution like this. So it's kind of interesting to see that they allow you to tie in your integrations with DBT directly here. So very promising, very promising. So let's cancel that for now. No transformations, and we can save and then reset that data. All right. So we've done that. We've saved that. We've resetted that data, and we can go back to status, and you can see it's triggered the job and it's running. My first attempt, I did cancel it. The second one was succeeded with 2 records. And let's do something here. If we can, maybe not. Okay, I don't think I'm gonna load data in there for now. Let's just have this run. I think it should run here in a few seconds. You can see what's going on behind the scenes. It's going out to MySQL, figuring out the changes, and it's gonna write that all over into Snowflake. And if I wanted to cancel this, I can go ahead, cancel it. Well, it succeeded. No records were loaded, because of course I did run this about a second or so ago, and all the data sets that I had were loaded. So this time now it's gone through and there is no data to pull. And if you go over to Snowflake and we refresh my schema here, it doesn't show up. I think I'm account admin. Let's go into databases. There's not a lot of databases. So you can see my sales and my product, which is brand new. And if I go into sales, and this is basically where my data has been loaded. So let me go back in here, and we're gonna write an actual query against that. So let's do select from, and we're gonna go from there. There's not a lot of data, and making sure that my database, I believe I use DemoDB, and schema is public. So let's go ahead, select that, and doesn't seem to like it. Sysadmin, maybe I should switch that to, let's switch that to account admin and give it one more try. For some reason, it doesn't seem to like that object. I wonder why. Am I in the right schema? Let's go back and make sure that we are in the right schema. DemoDB, Airflow, table sales. Did I copy everything? All right, I'm just gonna pause the video, figure out why that is not showing up, and we're gonna pick up from there. All right, so I think my schema was a little bit deceiving to me, and I did figure it out why. So let's go back here into my database. And I think when it brings it in, it puts it into a schema in here, which is a little bit different than my public schema, which was kind of hiding from me for a little bit there. So if I go back, even though I don't see that in my UI, sometimes you just have to refresh the UI for all the schemas to come up. Oh, there you go. Now that schema shows up, and that's my table replicated both the products and the sales. And if I preview data, there's no data, which is a little bit surprising. Now, it's not so surprising because in the Airbyte, I think I wasn't, I chose the override initially when I kicked off this job. So what we're gonna have to do is go back in here into the MySQL database, and we're gonna insert some data into the products table just so we have some data in there, new records, and I'm gonna insert some more. Actually put in my name here through, and then call it YouTube so that we can see these records coming through. All right, let's say take with through YouTube. So let's insert those records. Go ahead and click go. Doesn't like that. What's going on? Data too long. Okay, I guess through. It's fine. Let's try that. Too long. Maybe just through. Okay. Should be fine. All right. It wants it to be 3 digits. So we got through. We got that. Now, if I go back, we've got new records. So I'm going to sync this again. All right. But before I do that, let me just make sure that my connection here is full refresh instead of override, because if we do an override, it would basically, that's what we saw there where there's no data, because our override and no data was pulled. So I'm gonna definitely do the append so that it doesn't override every time. Typically, you don't want to override your destination. Not a good idea. So let's sync now, or we can reset the data. We could have easily done that too if I wanted to, so that it repulls the source, because before it succeeded with 2 records, and then here it didn't see any records, so you overrode it with no records. Again, you can see how things get out of hand very quickly. With some luck, we're gonna get some data. I think it took 48 seconds here, 44 seconds here. So hopefully this stays under a minute. And I'm gonna go back. One thing I want to check here is to see, does it create a stage for us? It does create, no, it doesn't. It doesn't create stages. I believe if I was using the AWS one, it's going to create stages for us. So it's just doing inserts. And if I go in and I check my query history, let's see, is it doing row by row inserts? Let's see. it's created the schema for us before insert into this, select start from products. Oh, so it does create a temp table and it doesn't insert in there. So, okay. I'm going to spend some time to see what's going on behind the scenes. So there's nothing to insert in there. So basically, got it. All right, let's go back here. Hopefully this is successful. Do a quick refresh. Is it successful? Still running. Let's see what queries we're getting here on the Snowflake side. It did. Let's open this all up. So it does create a temp table. Create schema if it doesn't exist. I can't believe it does that every time. And has it changed anything yet? Okay. Let's see that. Again, is it successful? Still running. So I'm just gonna pause this for a second and we're gonna come back once the run is complete. Oh, voila, before I could hit that, it was successful. And now we've got 6 records. So I think this looks a little bit more promising. And it took 2 minutes. 6 records for 2 minutes. That's kind of, it really depends on how you look at it. That might be, All right. But this again is a demo account. So I don't expect any high performance or throughput. So let's go back in here and I'm going to do a refresh in my history just to see what happened. Okay. So it did drop that temp table and it did the inserts into my base table. And let's see, what else did it do? All right. So that's good. If we go back into my worksheet and I do a select from that table, we should see our 6 records showing up in here. And it all looks good. So the ones with through and the ones without through. And just to tell you that this is really doing an insert, if I go back into my query, I'm going to insert just one more record in here. And let's see that it should bring just this delta, right? So, through, let's do FN so that it doesn't mess up the name. Let's insert this. This is a new record we're writing in, successful FNNN. And I'm going to go back here, resync now. Hopefully this should go quicker because we're just going to get one record, which has changed from the source. That's a new insert. Now you can think about delete, updates. I'm not sure how it's going to figure that out. But again, something that you can try and see for your use case if this works for you. So again, it takes a few seconds here. I'm not going to sync that. I'm going to go back. I like to see what's going on behind the scenes just for my own sake here. And I'm going to refresh this. Now, again, every time it creates the temp table, and we should see a copy into command at some point. It hasn't done that yet, so I don't think it's completed. So this is 0656. All right, so if we go back, still running, probably pulling from my source, it's pulling from here. And let's see if it's gone ahead and 0656, it's still the same. So I'm not sure where the latency might be coming from. Is it pulling from the source or is it writing into the destination? Just getting one record. Of course, data has gravity. I don't expect it to just magically appear, like just move over the internet and just show up in my database in no time. There's going to be some latency, right, in seconds or so. But it might be interesting to be able to explain. I think now it's done the insert, committed, drop the tables. So if I go back in here, this should be successful. Really weird. 7 records. Okay, I think I know why. And if I go back in here and I do my select, I see it inserted the 7 new records because we did an append. But on the source side, if I go to the connection in here, I really did not want it to do. I think the way this is set up, I gotta have to think about this a little bit because I'm saying a full refresh append. So full refresh meaning I'm refreshing the source, then I'm appending to the destination. So I really shouldn't be doing that. I might want to do incremental append. That would make more sense. All right. And since we're at it and we've spent this much time, let's try that. Ouch. Why is it complaining? Does it need something? Let's go. Let's use the name. Okay. Because I'm going to change that name. Okay. Let's save that. Reset. And we'll go back in here. And now it's going to rerun again. But the problem is it's going to reset and we're going to get the data over. And then I'm going to do my insert and we're going to get the data over. So let's pause this for a second and then come back after the reset is run. And we're going to do, I want to make sure we can see the incremental records coming through. So the reset did run, 0 records were moved over, which is fine. And now let's go back and insert a new record in here in my source side, which is MySQL. And we're going to call this through 1, 2. I don't think we've used that before. And if I run this, I think it doesn't need AB through BC. Oh, like that. Oh, the key, let's do 9. All right. So the key is 9. Let's go back and then sync now. We've inserted just 1 record. So my hope, everything being equal, is this will run and bring us just that 1 record. What happens on the Snowflake side, I'm not too bothered about that. I just want to see 1 record coming from the source side. And voila, I think this ran, but still not what I expected. It's not what I expected. I wanted 1 record because at this point, we should have set this all up to do incremental append, so incremental on the source side. But there might be some tweaking to do there for me to get it all right. But you get the concept. Hopefully, I hope it's not a bug. I hope it's just me missing something here. But you get the idea. I'm not gonna beat too much on this. I think it's a newer product. You can see the refresh there is successful. If I did put this on a schedule, every so often it's gonna get my data from my source to the destination, which will be Snowflake. So just to bring this back home, I think this has been a little bit of an interesting demonstration of this product. Very promising, I would say. You always have to move data for any analysis, whether we're talking about IoT, machine learning, big data. Data has to be moved from sources to destination. And there are tools that are playing that role. And Airbyte seems to be one of the players in this field, completely open source. You can get it, try it, use it for your use case. I'm not sure of the performance, scalability, or security or anything like that. But if you've tried it and have any thoughts or comments, leave them in the comment section below. I'll be more than happy to know. Share that so the community can get some feedback. As always, thanks for watching. Please share this video with somebody else that might get value out of it. It's really been great having you. You've been awesome. I've been through. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video presentation.